Hello and welcome again. I am Alicia Wallace, pronouns she, her, and I'm a part of the Equality Bahamas team where we promote women's and LGBTQI plus people's rights as human rights. And we are right in the middle of the Global 16 Days campaign. We participate in this global campaign every year with a series of events, and this year is no different. We are focused on reclaiming rights. And in this particular session, we're looking at reclaiming narratives and healing. I'm really, really excited to be sharing this space with my friend Jenn Green and Laura Sweeney, who have created a film that I think is incredible and is going to have so much impact on so many different people in many different ways. We'll talk about it a little bit more after everyone's had a chance to see it. But just for folks who are new to us, this is a pretty open space. We're very happy to have conversations and to pose questions, offer challenges, ideas, solutions, as long as we are respectful of everyone else that's in the space. And we have no tolerance whatsoever for any form of sexism, racism, classism, xenophobia, hostility towards LGBTQI plus people, ableism, and we don't do warnings. The first time, you're out, and maybe we can have a conversation at another time, but it won't be in this space where it could potentially cause harm to people. Just putting that out there. With that, I am really excited to have Jenn and Laura introduce themselves. I'm not going to put words in your mouth or try to create a fanciful picture. I know you're both very cool people, and I think people should hear from you directly about who you are and what you've been doing and putting out into the world. Let's start with Jenn and then go to Laura.
Thank you. Hi, Alicia. Hi, everybody. I'm Jenn Green, and gosh, I'm so many things in this space. I am someone who suffered some extreme violence at the hands of my husband, and I am lucky enough to have a background in movement that I was able to access really intuitively initially. And then, more intellectually understanding what I was doing. But I created a project where I danced every day in my kitchen. I meant to do it for a year, and I ended up doing it for 3 years. It was a intuitive way for me to heal, for me to reaccess myself, for me to reclaim. I think, as Alicia is talking about reclaiming, that's something I have come to understand I was doing for myself. And I then started to kind of reach out into the world a little more fully and to be reached into. And I think that's where, Laura and I come. There's much more here we can talk about, but I think I'll let Laura introduce herself and we can talk more later.
Right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us, Alicia, and hi to everybody tuning in. I'm Laura Sweeney. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director. I'm also an actor. I traditionally make narrative films, usually historical drama, dark comedy, and this has been my very first documentary project. Jenn and I had met years ago through our kids in Brooklyn. I'm based in New York, and I was really drawn to this story because of the courage and just perseverance and strength. It just really spoke to me. Um, Jenn being such a light in wanting to talk about her journey, therefore like opening a conversation for other people. So yeah, I'm delighted to be here. I know it's probably a lot warmer in the Bahamas, and I'm in New York tonight. It's freezing cold for like the first time. So really enjoying sharing this film with audiences. So yeah.
Thank you so much. It is warmer here. We're supposed to get a cold front. I'm kind of excited. I'm ready to feel like a little 70-degree weather that you can laugh at. Okay, so you got connected through your children and I guess probably through socials. Um, Jen, I'm wondering before we play the film, is there anything that you think people should know going into it? Any kind of context beyond what you've already shared that we should have?
Gosh, I don't know if I think there is. I mean, I think, be gentle with yourselves. The content of this film, is largely concentrating on what I've chosen and the beauty of the communities around me, and empowering myself and being empowered by those communities. But it is also really hard content. And so if you need to step away or pause your listening for a little while, please do. I think other than that, my experience of experiencing this film with others is that it touches people in so many different ways. And it's not for me to say how it touches you, but I hope it does. And I look forward to hearing your takeaways when we have a conversation afterwards. Yeah.
But we're turning over to turning over to Laura
Great. Okay,
for the
yes,
sharing.
I will share the film now. Just give me and then I will mute myself and turn off my camera. But if you can give me a thumbs up that you have sound right after I share it, that would be awesome. Okay.
I think there are a lot of things. I think I was taught as a female child not to be angry. I was taught to be good and quiet and patient and kind and forgiving. And those were qualities that gave me access to being liked in my life. I think a lot of it was unconscious. And I think when I first found everything, I don't remember feeling much of anything, pretty numb, like shock, I'm sure, as I look back and intellectualize what that was. And then I really started to feel devastated, crushed, betrayed, so sad. But I don't recall really feeling much more than a flicker of like rage, probably for a few weeks, maybe even. I mean, time is funny, who knows? But I think feeling anger, feeling rage, which I think is something that belongs here, really hard for me to access. And what I have found is that I often get very angry for others first. It's probably part of why I'm a really good teacher for young children. I have lots of empathy. I can offer lots of space for feeling for the other, and modeling, care for that. So I think really through my children, I think there was a point where I was so angry at what had been taken from them. And there are several points I could pull out in this, these many years I've been going through, where that has risen up in me. And I have appreciation for being able to name that rage and to have seen sort of a pattern for myself where it's through my children in relation to this situation that I feel rage. And then kind of looping back to myself and saying, okay, Jen, actually, you get to feel rage for yourself, not just because of what was done to you, therefore done to your children. Like, yes, and loop back to yourself and say, and I say to myself, like, this is righteous rage. Like, dig in. And it's not entirely comfortable for me. It feels unsteady, and like sometimes I'm not sure if I'll be able to crawl back out of that chasm of rage if I sit too deep in it. So that is ongoing. I mean, I think as I say in the film, this is an ongoing journey, and I will continue to figure out my path back to myself even more fully, and outward into the world.
You also talked about um, this feeling of wanting to stop being
Mhm.
and the disappearing. Can you talk more about that and how you got through
Mm.
it? And do you feel like you're on the other side of that?
That's a great question. Good questions. I think I'm such a feeling person first and foremost. I think I really feel things for so much longer and so much deeper before I think them. And so it took me a long time to understand when I was saying I just want to disappear. I just like and feeling that, and then being able to even vocalize I want to disappear, and then understanding intellectually that's wanting to die. That's me saying like I'm suicidal, and putting a name to that, and was really hard for me. And it's that has been a much more recent like um kind of grief process with myself of saying, gosh, I wanted to die. And that's suicidal. Um, and those are words I wouldn't have put to it. I didn't know how to intellectualize that. Um, I was hurting so badly. I just remember the feeling in my chest. I would have done anything to make it stop. And I'm so grateful that I didn't choose that. And I don't have, a specific, like I can't tell you like I wasn't gathering, pills. I wasn't planning anything, but I don't know. I look back and I can see how when something is so awful that happens like that, and trying to name needing help because I want to disappear, I want to kill myself. Like, how do you name that? How do you tell someone that I don't know, because I'm not sure I did really. Like, I don't know that I told anyone really. Um, I think there are some people that could speak to that. I do think I'm on the other side of that powerfully. I meet myself in deep grief. There are days where I just say, gosh, I'm just gonna sit here today. I don't have anything in me. I have nothing left to offer right now. I'm so sad. I'm so angry. I'm so tired. But the feeling of wanting to disappear, no, I feel wanting to expand, which I'm really grateful to want to be bigger instead of smaller. Um, doesn't mean I always want to be seen. Sometimes I need space, but um, I no longer have the feeling that I need to dissipate into nothing.
Yeah, I love hearing you say that. You want to expand. Um, and I have wondered, seeing the posts and everything, and then the documentary, I've wondered about being so seen
Yeah.
and what that must feel like, and that being connected to such a violation, right? Like one of the things that people, women in particular, fear the most, and it coming from someone who was supposed to love you and care for you. So I'm curious about how it feels to be seen and to be seen for this reason.
Gosh, really, you're just bringing all the good questions, Alicia. I think there are many facets to this. I think, you know, these tiny kitchen dances, I'm very clear. I've had conversations with people about them. I've had people say, well, you're performing. And I'm not performing. These are not a performance. But am I a performer? Yes, I have that in me. I have spent a lifetime loving, practicing, being on a stage and creating work to be viewed and to be seen. So of course that lives in me. I can't take that away. Um, I I have experienced recently um, some real desire to be not seen, which is newer. I have felt really fierce, the 2020 to 2023, doing those tiny kitchen dances. They started out really small, and really much more vague in my talking about what was going on. I think within about 6 months, if you look at my posts, I was speaking much more explicitly, but still not all the way. I would say it took, a year and a half, maybe longer, until I started really speaking like very, very explicitly. And sometimes I would give a trigger warning. I would say, so you may not want to know this. You all, you don't know what's going on, and I'm going to tell you, and you're welcome to read it. I felt scared when I started speaking really, really explicitly. There was some and then I think I was proud, and then I was empowered, and then I went through to the end of the project, being really seen and having more and more people I knew, and then lots of people I didn't know, which was reflecting back to me, being seen not only by my intimate communities, but that I was being seen, witnessed, digested. I mean, there's so many words, by people that I wasn't in any kind of relationship with outside of social media on Instagram, because it was a public process. And I found that, again, I think mostly empowering. And then as it got a little bit bigger, I've had some experiences, which shouldn't surprise anyone, mostly men coming and saying things that I don't care for, publicly or privately. And now, 5 years into this, project, as it continues to unfold, I am understanding what I started a little bit more on an intellectual basis, I think. And I am knowing that in order for the film to have its place, I believe I need to stay present and visible. And there are days when that is not what I want, when I feel like it's done. I did what I came to do. I spoke. What else can come of this? So it's questions that are coming back and forth for myself, I think, now as I become more visible, which ego can become involved with this visibility. And so I'm meeting that as, we get some attention, I guess I would say is the word I could use for this film, from celebrity, viewers, etc. And there's help in that. It helps, to take the message of this film out, but it also leaves me feeling more vulnerable, which is okay, but I'm meeting that and questioning, like, what does that offer me? What do I offer my vulnerability? There's a lot of questions. Yeah.
Yeah, and the I don't even want to say the piece in the film about vulnerability, because it kind of was a line throughout. But that statement about it being how you become fully human, that is it Anne?
And
That Anne said. Um, that it's kind of sticking with me. And then alongside seeing all of these people who showed up for you because you were so vulnerable, right? That because you were so honest and you shared what happened and that you wanted help.
Yeah.
And just that support for you on the day.
All of that is so true. So, I mean, Anne, I've known Anne since I was a little girl. She was my dance teacher when I was a little girl, and I would clean the dance studios to pay for my classes. And she lived upstairs with her 5 children and her husband, who was a potter, and I would stay over sometimes. And so Anne's known me my whole life. When she would come to New York, we would go see, the Metropolitan Opera together or a ballet, and she would take me out to dinner, So she has been part of my life, like many of these people, for a long time. And she is a complete badass who just says it like it is, and was one of the very early people communicating with me and saying, what you're doing matters. Like this is like, and from an art perspective, even, she was saying to me, this is interesting. And I had no idea. I mean, I would kind of argue with her. She said to me, I think you should copyright these. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. you know, which, like there's some nice ego stroking there and some care, but I do think she is spot on. And I think that is part of the reason I kept going, is that was reflected back to me so clearly from people I knew and people I didn't, who were coming to the project on Instagram, that my vulnerability, my willingness to speak the unspeakable, and the unspeakable that I had lived, offered people space to belong and to speak their things that were unspeakable, if not to me, to themselves, and that's part of why I kept going, because I felt like if one person comes to me, and they did, and said, I didn't realize what I was experiencing was abuse. I have left. You reminded me. I mean, so many things were coming to me. And I didn't have any answers, but I felt like, gosh, the least I can do is to keep noodling in my kitchen to songs I love and wearing my pretty dresses while I flop around in the kitchen and try not to knock things over. That's kind of where it was, in some ways. And it really did take a lot of reflection back from people like Anne, from my community that you see showing up, saying the vulnerability is the thing. And for me to remember, to remind myself, I think, to go back to take off those layers of armor. I've been talking a lot about armor, actually, over the past year. And I go to therapy, you guys. My therapist said to me, she goes, Jen, your armor is dazzling. Your armor it's delightful. It is enticing. It is so shiny. And I was like, thanks. And she's like, no. I was like, no, we're done here. You said I was pretty. And she's like, but how is it serving you? And we talked a lot about it. So it's been a year of my thinking and talking about that. And I came to what I have been talking about as returning to the moss. And I said, I don't want to entirely get rid of all that shiny armor. I built it with care. It does serve me in some ways, and it's so pretty. And you're right. Okay, it's not great that it's covering everything, and all of the soft bits are on the inside. And I think about, my understandings of the body structure and how we have these bones on the inside that are hard and are meant to hold up our soft parts. And they also, there are some soft parts inside, our rib cage hugs our heart. And without those bony structures, those soft structures are not safe inside and outside. So we need all of it. So I have worked on thinking about returning that armor, that strength to my skeletal system, and letting the moss come out and be that really soft, living, tender, very particular ecosystem, to the outside. And sometimes you pull the moss aside and you get a little sparkle.
I like that visual. Very helpful for those of us who armor up.
Yeah, don't give up your armor. I think, it has a place, but If you're all armor, probably not healthy. If you're all moss, probably not healthy. So maybe they can work together. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I see Marion is unmuted. Did you want to get in?
Yes, yes. And I just want, yes, thank you so much. I want to show my face just for a minute because just to show that I'm human and to connect with both Jen and Laura and the community here, and then just to shut my video off for a minute and ask the question. Maybe I'll just wait because I thought it was, yeah, thank you so much, Jen, for sharing this with us. I'm just really moved by it and um, find it hard to say what I'd like. But thank you both to you and Laura, and thank you for your courage and sharing this journey with us. And what you've just said, I think my question perhaps may link up with that. And I think you said in the film that you don't feel that you're back to yourself. That it's something along that line, that you're not back to yourself, and that the process continues, and understandably so. And so my question would be, can you share with us where in your being, your heart, your soul, your spirit, your body, because of the dance that you're using to heal yourself, where in those places of being do you feel that you're not back to yourself? And how might that, how does that move? It doesn't have to be forward, but how does that move for you in your own sense of being full back to yourself or with yourself? So I'm not sure if I'm asking it in a way that's comprehensible, but where in your body, your heart, your soul, your spirit, do you feel that you're not back to yourself, and how that would look, I'll say, moving forward? Not that it's a linear moving forward. Does that make sense, the question?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, a little bit.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So I think I speak about, I think what you're referencing perhaps is where I say, it's going to be a long journey for me I basically, this will affect me forever. Um, and, so to give a little timing context, I started the project Dancing in My Kitchen, Tiny Kitchen Dances in January 1st of 2020. And I did my final official kitchen dance. I still dance in my kitchen often, you guys, so come find me on Instagram. But I finished my final 3 years of doing them every single day on December 31st of 2022. So it's been a couple of years. A lot has happened. I've done some moving. I've had some intimate, romantic relationships that were beautiful and then have disintegrated. My children are doing beautiful things, growing into the world as big baby adults, I like to say, 17 and 20. So I'm living. And I would say I am holding tightly. Sometimes I should maybe not hold quite so tightly to my grief and to my joy, both. As I walk, I am still reminding myself to feel my rage. That I think is going to be one of my continuing things that I need to attend to, is not to compartmentalize my rage. I think I often, like I said, I feel it for others. I can feel that white hot, like I will take you out. Don't mess with anyone in my realm. You're gone. But for me, it's much harder. So I'm working on that. I think, you say moving forward, and that's something that we use a lot. Like, so moving forward, I'm like, life isn't linear in any way. I don't know if you can see, I'm wearing these earrings. It's hard to see. They're spirals. Everything for me more and more is completely violently unlinear. It is
Mm-hmm.
just a spiral. I think of it as a continuous spiral. And Laura and I've talked a little bit about this, that I feel like in a spiral, when you were asking me, Marion, about like returning to myself and my heart and my body. So I think about walking a spiral. So I think about it, you could think about a labyrinth, but I prefer a spiral as opposed to a
Yes.
labyrinth.
Well,
Now, in a spiral, you can walk in facing the center. You can choose to walk in. You can choose to face out and walk out of the spiral. I'm spiraling. I move. You can, sometimes there's something, maybe there's someone else in the spiral with you. Maybe there's wind, who knows? Like it's your spiral, you can imagine. Maybe you get pulled backwards out, of the spiral. Maybe you get pulled into the spiral. There are so many ways, and yet the earth that you're walking, as I imagine it, in the spiral is the same. So what I do as I walk that same earth forwards and backwards is different. So how my body feels and moves on what I imagine to be earth can vary. And I think my hope, my practice is to live in that vulnerability, and to let my heart hurt when it hurts, not to try to fix it. When I feel great joy and I'm just like so excited, I can't do anything other than talk about the thing I'm excited about, I want to do that. So, but I'm still standing on that same earth in the spiral. That doesn't change. And, I also think about, I've been asked a lot of things, but I have been asked before, well, are you healed? Where are you on your healing journey? So do you think you're good now, is kind of what I've been asked. And I used to not know how to answer that at all. And I just because who knows how to answer that? And now I've had some practice. It's been asked to me in one way or another many times. And I now say to people, I don't believe that's how healing works. I would encourage you to consider that we're not either okay or broken. I would encourage you to imagine incredible harm on a physical, social, emotional level, a wound that cannot be stitched back together. And then I would ask you to imagine treating that wound like a garden, and that you tend to it. And I think the truth is that does exist. There are physical ailments that some people are born with or that happen to them in their life that can never be fixed. They're not going to go back to what was before. The same emotionally, socially, like there are these wounds that come. And for me, this wound of having this man who I loved so deeply, I would have stayed with him to raise our children. My son looks just like him and he's so beautiful. And I imagine this wound that I cannot imagine in my life having a wound bigger than this. And it's never going to go away. And so I tend to it. And I sing it songs, I bring it tea. It really, it's a part of me, and it's an important part of me. It's a part of me that allows me to tap into my care for myself and for others on such a deep level, and to disavow that part of me would be to disappear myself at this point. So I won't. And that, I think that I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but I think I am so delighted. I am truly delighted to be alive. I am so glad to be here. I almost wasn't. I was almost murdered by my husband. I would stop breathing. He would tell me that I stopped breathing, and he still would do what he did to me. So it is not lost on me that it's huge that I'm alive, and I'm so glad I'm alive. And I will take all the pieces that are here, that are a part of me, that I didn't ask for, maybe, but they belong to me now, and I get to tend to them, and I get to model for them what is beautiful and good and true. Yeah. Does that
Thank
answer
you.
your question at all?
You've responded beautifully to my question. Your response is amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Laura, did you want to say something there?
I just that was amazing. I'm just sort of taking it all in. I guess if I were to add anything, it's just something, it's been an interesting part of the journey to, first create the film together, but then also in sharing the film and having more of these conversations, it just kind of keeps going. And just the power of creativity. I think to heal is not even a good enough word. It's like Jen just sort of started doing this thing and it's taken her on this path, which has led us here tonight talking like this. And something you said, Jen, at something we went to, and you were like, I think it's really important that I'm at these festivals and stuff because the whole point is that I'm here. Like, so I want to be there. I'm like, yeah, that's the whole thing. You're here. Like, you're here, and I think it's such a universal message of like the joy and the extraordinary amount of work required to continue, when you're walking through something like this. And to have people witness and talk about that very directly is just an incredible experience. So yeah, thanks for the question. And I loved your answer too, Jen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're hearing more and more that healing isn't a destination, that, it's ongoing, it's a journey. But somehow when you hear someone speak about these kinds of experiences, you sort of have this idea that they're fine now. To be able to share this, to be able to do this, she must be okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Must be a new, phase of life.
Yeah, so I'd seen, Alicia, I don't know if you can see, I see Noelle raised her hand, and then I see Linda's raising her hand.
Yeah,
Noelle,
Noelle is up first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm just turning on my video set because I'm in a parking lot. I have been driving. Just again, also so you can see my face and just give thanks for convening this circle and for you sharing your testimony. I'm curious about two things. Building off the last point, part of the documentary and part of your journey included interacting with the criminal justice system and the juxtaposition of just that cold experience and sterile experience of the criminal justice system with the beauty of the artistic expression and that aspect of the healing journey, I think is quite beautiful, but also telling of a powerful journey back to life, right? And the journey to you said a few minutes ago that you're living, and to even be able to articulate that, having coming from a position where you didn't want to be here, is such an amazing accomplishment, and testimony, because truly coming from a trauma such as that, being able to get back to a place where you're able to feel like you're living again, and it's just very beautiful. So my question to you, though, is how having to navigate the criminal justice system either made your healing process harder or if it was an aid to your personal healing journey, and how your artistic expression supported perhaps your whether decision to or coping with going through the whole process of justice in that particular.
Thank you. Really, really good questions. I spent a long time not wanting any part of integrating with the criminal justice system. I don't believe there's a lot of good in much of the criminal justice system. I think it's harmful more than it's helpful in general. I still believe that. I waited, gosh, there's many conversations that could be had here, but I waited a long time. So there's many timelines here. I waited a long time to report. I did not report until 2021, 6 years after I found everything. This has been a very long journey for me. When I did choose to report, I had moved out of New York. I was living in New Hampshire. And I won't go into all the reasons why I finally chose to report. There's a book coming, y'all. I can sit down and write this book. It'll come eventually, and there's so much in here that I think will be helpful and supportive. But when I reported, I was living in New Hampshire, and NYPD Special Victims Unit. It was not Mariska Hargitay, you guys. I'm so sorry to say. They sent 2 officers from New York City Special Victims Unit to my living room in New Hampshire to take my statements and to collect the evidence that I had for them. They took me very seriously. I think there are some reasons for that. Again, I won't go into, I had a certain amount of evidence, etc. I think everyone who reports should be taken as seriously as I was, and I don't believe they are. We can go all into that too at another time. It was one of the times I started to access real rage. I had reported, they said they were coming, and then they canceled to come another time. And I had rearranged my whole work schedule. I was driving back home in a snowstorm, and I screamed so loudly in my car that I lost my voice. Really loud. I lost my voice for about a day because I was so angry that they had said they were coming and then they didn't. And maybe they had a good reason, who knows? But on my journey, this was me like accessing, like I was so angry. I was so ready to have some external legal support, an ear. I don't know, like I think there's some untying still to be done for me, like what that was. They came, they collected the evidence. I spoke with them in my living room for about 2 hours. It took another year from that time until, and it took me coming to New York to testify before a secret grand jury and many other things before my ex-husband was indicted and arrested. It took it took 2 years. That took 2 years. This is my timeline. That took 2 years. 2 years until he was indicted and arrested. It took another year until the plea. So he took a plea deal. We did not go to trial. There's more stories in there about why I chose that, etc. It took another year until we went to trial. And that's what you see us all standing in that circle all together. So I did something I have never heard of being done. And the district attorney who had my case and the victim advocate in Kings County, which is Brooklyn, which is, it's Brooklyn, y'all, had never seen done. I took 40 people with me to court. So it's legal. It's an open courtroom. So when the district attorney, was talking me through things, and I said, well, it's an open courtroom, so I can bring people, right? And she goes, yeah. She goes, there will be other people there waiting for their hearings, etc. People are just going to come in and out. I said, okay. I said, well, I'm bringing 40 people with me. And she said, what? And I said, I'm bringing 40 people with me. And she said, okay. And I said, it's legal. She goes, it is, but no one does it. And I said, well, I'm doing it. And they changed our court appearance time. We had a 9 a.m. time. They changed it. And I only know this retroactively. So I knew they changed the time. When we arrived at the courthouse, it was an empty floor. That does not happen ever in Brooklyn. It's an empty floor, just us. So 40 people, me and my kids. And then around the corner hiding, my ex-husband and his mom and his girlfriend and some lady, I don't know who she was, and their lawyer. We filled
And
that.
your film crew.
And my film crew.
Yeah. We couldn't go into the courtroom, but we were there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, my film crew. And we filled the courtroom. And how you think of like sides, like there are sides, it's like a wedding. So you have, the prosecution and the defense. Well, we didn't fit on my side, so we filled his side too. Yeah. It was powerful to do that. I mean, I think Laura can speak to that in some other ways, like than I can. Like I was definitely what I would call kind of just feeling my feelings and trying to like keep going. So intersecting with the criminal justice system, do I feel like I got justice? I don't think there's any such thing as justice. It's like this is the same thing for me as feeling like, are you healed? Is it finished? I offered myself justice. That's what I can say. I offered myself justice. I said what I needed to say. My victim impact statement there's plenty more I could have said, but I think it said what needed to be said. If you want to read the whole thing, it's on my Tiny Kitchen Dances Instagram. I think for me, given everything that I tried to do, given everything I had access to, et cetera, I think it was the right choice for me. There is no right choice. There is no one way for a survivor to meet any of these systems. They're not largely designed to carry you through in any therapeutic measure. There are people trying. There's a lovely, victim impact support specialist. She was a kind woman. She had nothing I needed. It's not to say she couldn't have had some things that other people needed, but I didn't need the things she had to offer. I gathered the things I needed, and I'm so lucky that I had access to those things. And so, if you look at the statistics, almost no one reports marital rape. Almost no one. Very few people report rape itself when you look at the statistics. Fewer people get any justice. Rapists don't go to prison, and I don't even believe in prison, you guys. I don't think it helps for the most part. That's another big conversation. What do you get? It's like this idea of what do you get? What kind of compensation do you get for your pain and suffering? There's nothing, in my mind, there is nothing you can get that is going to be a salve to return you to yourself. You have to offer that to yourself. So I'm glad, it's maybe not the best word, but it's the word I've got right now. I'm glad I made the choice I made. For me, given what I had access to, given what I needed, given the statement I wanted to make to myself, to him, to my communities, I believe I made the choice that serves me as best I could.
Yeah.
It's not awesome. Like, but I think it is what it is. Laura, you probably have some other perspective.
I just will add, to the other part of your question. It certainly did impact the story of the film because, we shot 2 or 3 days in Asheville in 2022. And then the sentencing we shot in 2024 one day. And I thought we would come there and just kind of get a few shots of people, praying together and then we'd be done. And witnessing physically Jen's community surrounding her and how it had impacted so many people close to her all of these years, this whole journey. We had not expected that, So we ended up filming, I think, 12 interviews that day with people because people wanted to talk. And that was, that's the beauty of documentary filmmaking. There's always surprises. You think it's going to be one thing, and it's like when something like this happens to someone, it doesn't just, it impacts that person a lot, not to underplay that, but the level at which it impacts all of the people in their inner circle and community, it's huge. It's huge. It's impacted so many people's lives. And we rarely hear about that, about how a whole community gets impacted when something like this happens. And it was really powerful to be in that courtroom. I couldn't film there, but it was really felt like important to be there. And also, it was an interesting experience for me because the guy was there. I was a little, I'm the documentarian. I was a little scared. This guy knows who I am now. We're there with the camera. And so we had a little more skin in the game that day. But yeah, just seeing people come together and the power of community, how much that changes things for a survivor's experience to be surrounded by their community. And I think I'm very happy to have that message be in the film of what that looks like, what that can look like. I think that is something that we can all work towards creating more of that for survivors. It's a really powerful possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you. Linda, you're so patient.
Linda, I think you're muted.
Yep, still muted.
Oh yeah. I was saying I don't know about patience, but I'm taking it all in, and I just applaud you for doing this, and Laura and the listeners and the facilitator Alicia. I just appreciate everyone's hearts. It's a tough time in our world, and this is a strong, loving thing to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do we have I have many more questions, but I'm being decent right now. Do others have questions or comments that you want to share? I think I might put the link to that survey in the chat now. Laura, do you want to say something to folks about the
Sure. Yeah, we created this short survey. It's just asking a few questions about, your reaction to seeing the film and asking you, if you have ideas of audiences you think this might be of service to. It's just 3 short questions, no pressure, but we appreciate the feedback. It helps us as we move forward distributing and sharing the film. So, yeah.
Yes, please, and thank you. I think that's the thing. I think, you know, there's a lot of conversation here about the community and the power of watching that. And I mean, for me, I mean, I'm experiencing it. Like these are my people from my whole life. You know, with me, my siblings, my best friend from, you know, when we were growing up, people who were at our wedding, people who we met when our children were born in New York. I mean, it literally crossed my whole life and 7 states. And I think the more I, you know, have questions about like the community, like that people see, and the more I reflect on my experience, what has buoyed me, what has kept me moving in a healthy fashion, round and round my spiral, in and out. It is about community for me in the biggest way. And I think that is, you know, a big conversation I think we can have about, you know, so many things about why our communities are lacking, you know, and all of the reasons for that, and how can we shift some of the systems, you know, it's all these systems. How can we shift some of these systems so that our communities are strong and viable and tender and mossy? We're just going to be mossy. Like, how can we have those beautiful ecosystems with those little feathery ferns, you know? How can we have those again? And all the little wormies get to live underneath. Like, yeah, I love worms. I think about that a lot as I recognize the incredible privilege and the work I have done to build communities in my life. My hope is that with this film, you know, I'm often asked, like, what are you hoping for with this film? And sometimes I kind of like look at people and I go, I'm still working on that. And that is an answer. It's a valid answer. I'm hoping to connect and to be a connector and to start to offer, you know, my path, my stepping stones, to be shared with others who maybe don't quite have their own yet. I'm lucky enough to have extras, I think, right now. And I really hope that with this film, you know, so that's why we want you to answer these questions and tell people about it, have conversations, reach out to me. I'm really happy to talk to you. So that we can change some things for the better. Yeah.
We have a comment in the chat that says, powerful indeed, truly. As a survivor who has had my autonomy discarded, I really wanted to be here for this and glad I could. I find my healing and power through movement also. Exercise, dancing, whining, any intentional government movements of my choice really helps me remember that my body is mine and mine alone. So I really love this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So
That's
beautiful.
great.
Yes. And your body is your own. And I'm so glad to hear you say that. And so glad that you are accessing all of these things that you're speaking about in the chat. It's not easy work. It's good work. But it's not easy. And I'm really glad you're doing it.
When you started the Tiny Kitchen dances, were you making a connection about your body and like reclaiming it?
I think there was some vague understanding for me that I was taking back being filmed, that I had been filmed while incapacitated and being abused. And somehow, I mean, maybe grasping at straws even, but it seems like I got the tall one. I was figuring out, how to take that back, like how to take my body in space and being filmed, how to take that back. I mean, gosh, there's a bazillion ways I could have done that, I'm sure. But, when I think about, who am I? If somebody asks, who are you? What defines you? What are those, really strong warps of your, loom that you weave across in your life? Like, what are the wefts? If you know about weaving, you have warp, which are like sturdy cotton strings, perhaps, and then you weave across the warp. So the warp and the weft. And so, what are my warp strings? And my warp strings, I think one of them is that I'm a mover, I'm a dancer. It's part of my identity. And, I'm a mama, I'm a sister. Like there are some other, warp threads there. So I think, what was I going to do? I was going to dance in front of the camera. So, I think a lot of that was really instinctual, but I think I've started to understand, there was purpose behind that, but it was the little, quiet, mossy me, inside, that didn't have quite a big enough voice, but, was driving the ship whether I knew it or not. And I'm so glad that she was, said, keep moving. Like, you have this, like, this belongs to you. You belong to it, and therefore you belong. So yeah, I don't know exactly, but that's the best description I can give to answer your question.
Yeah, super clear. I love all your illustrations. They're all so visual, very easy to follow.
Yeah, thank you. I
That's
live
the texture in you.
in metaphor.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We talked about this before, so I know you know that marital rape is not yet criminalized here in the Bahamas, and this is one of the major areas of work for Equality Bahamas. And there are many nonsense arguments against criminalizing. And one of them that we see over and over again is just get a divorce.
Mhm.
And you've gone that route, but you also chose to look at the criminal side, right? Can you, I guess, say why divorce would not have been enough?
Yeah. A couple things. I just finally got divorced 2 months ago. It's been a 6-year process of trying to get divorced. So I mean, holy crap, you guys. Like, just get divorced. What? I mean, this was an uncontested divorce. And the reason it took so long is because he kept pushing things. I mean, like, again, this is more conversation, but just get a divorce. First of all, not that easy. There's all sorts of things tied up into divorce that mean you become less safe, particularly as a female-bodied human. The systems are still in place for men to have more power, more money, more connection in the legal system, in financial systems, etc. I mean, it's just the way it still is, unfortunately. And so just get a divorce, the power super shifts over, and you can be left in a much more dangerous place than staying. There's so many more things I could say about that. I did choose to intersect also with the criminal justice system. And again, I want to be so clear, that was my choice and my privilege, and there's no requirement that someone who has experienced any kind of abuse owes anyone a certain pathway. Yeah, I want to just be super clear about that. I think, Alicia, the thing is for me, like, there's not one answer here. Like, it's so dependent upon the tiny little ecosystems of each relationship, of each community, of the legal, systems, in the Bahamas, in the US, in the UK, et cetera. Like, it is the way that all of these things intersect is so particular. And I am friends here in Asheville with our district attorney. And it's been very interesting for him to watch the film and to reflect back to me his thoughts from his, legal standpoint. He's like, you got a lot. He's like, you got everything you possibly could have gotten. It's amazing what you did. The community stuff, all of that stuff is amazing. But, he reflects back from his area of expertise. And he's not wrong. And I also say to him, you're not wrong. I appreciate that you are reflecting to me the work I did, and that the criminal justice system met me as it, in lots of ways, as it says it will, and as it is, quote unquote, designed to work. I got more than most people. I've been told that. It's true. If you look at statistics, etc. Is it enough? Nothing's enough. I mean, like, we could talk about this all day. I don't know if I've answered your question, Alicia. I've gone off on a tangent, but like, I think there's not an answer. I think there is a choice to be made if you have the privilege of making a choice. And sometimes you don't. So you do your best to stay safe.
Yeah, I was going to add in, it's so often the questions that are asked are like, how to make it easy on the world instead of what does this survivor want their life to be like?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be the easiest path for them with the abuser they're dealing with, or, they're going to have to keep dealing with all these things. It's not just like, so I once again, a hope for the world is that we can start asking questions that serve survivors' lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, and that's, I think to say, survivors are not a monolith,
right?
To say like it's, I'm so clear on, like, when I say, this wonderful woman, Catherine, who was the victim support specialist for Kings County, District Attorney's Office. Again, she was kind. She did care. She had some resources. I mean, I would say they were limited and very specific, but she was doing everything she could with what she had access to. Was it enough? Did it help me? No. And so I think, yes, I think to speak to Laura's point, I really do hope that we can find ways to intersect with so many, people, systems, etc. I think actually Linda and I were speaking at one point about how if I have the gift and the privilege of my art intersecting with the legal system, that is unique. And that's true. And I so appreciate having that reflected back to me, because I've thought a lot about it. It has offered me, with Todd, with our district attorney, it has offered me a platform, so to speak, to take this film, which came from my dance art, to talk about the criminal justice system. I mean, there are so many ways that this film can intersect with different communities to be of support. And I mean, I have a brother who is a lawyer. He's an assistant district attorney in Manhattan, my baby brother. And, you know, he's doing his work. He's trying. I don't think that vilifying the criminal justice system or lawyers or, like that will help nothing. It's more divisive again. Like, I think the more we can come together and sit in question, care, curiosity, the better off we are all going to be, as opposed to being us and them. I don't think that's going to help.
Yeah, and you started off talking about choice, right? Like people will make different choices and take different paths. And what we need to do is make sure that these options are available
Right.
to people. And, a lot of options just aren't available.
Right. And that is, how do we in our, communities, where do we put our money? Where does the government put its money? I mean, like we can go like up little steps and we can go up really big steps, and how do we, how are laws made? How is money allocated, et cetera, et cetera. And listen, I'm not a genius at any of this, but I can see, and I say, like, how do we intersect and access those spaces of conversation in order to provide platforms for choice? And I think, gosh, I could tell you, big old pipe dreams I want to happen. And I also recognize right or wrong, but it's right. People should have access. Okay, I can stand on my soapbox and scream about that all day, but is that going to actually help anyone? Probably not. So I'm going to step myself back and simmer down a little bit and try to say, okay, what can I do? Just me? What can Laura and I do with this film and these conversations? What can Laura and Alicia and I do with this film and these conversations? So it's the expansion of, it's the ripple effect for good. We've seen what the ripple effect for crap looks like. Now let's see if we can make the ripple effect for good. And I think we can. And I think we can strive for those really big, beautiful, lofty things. And I would also encourage us to remember to stay really grounded, and that those little bitty things really matter too. And that's actually how we get to the big things. And it takes time and it sucks because we don't like that. But it does help. I encourage you, if you haven't ever read any Rebecca Solnit, she is right. See, Men Explain Things to Me is one of her really great ones, but she's got so many amazing things that she writes about and things that she upholds in her writings. And I started rereading a book of hers called Hope in the Dark. And she wrote this book during the first Bush administration. And I've only gotten through a third of it, so I can't really speak super clearly. I read it years ago and I'm rereading it. But just in the very first bits I'm reading now, I'm like, oh yeah. She talks about how movements get started and how movements get dropped because we want to see all this big action that happens and we want to have it be quantifiable immediately. And that actually it takes years and it does happen. And she's so good at showing quantifiable graphs and evidence for how change did happen. And so I would encourage you, if you're hoping to see change happen and you want to be a change maker and you're like me and you want it to happen right now, to look outside of yourself to those really intelligent people who write beautifully and speak beautifully and offer pictures of yes, and speak to your, I'm a little old, but not super old. Speak to your elders, who have been doing this work and who, can speak to, you know, I think the spectrum of frustration, as well as it has happened. It did happen. Look at these things. Like, don't, again, hold your grief, your rage, your hope, your joy, like carry them all in your backpack and your water bottle. Stay hydrated. Yeah.
I do want it all to happen now, Jen.
No, me too.
Right now, right now.
Yeah.
It's,
Oh, we're here. We're here right
yeah,
now, right?
yeah. It's hard when you're not seeing those big wins, right? Like we have to remember where we came from and all the small and the big wins that got us here. Marion actually produced a documentary on the women's suffrage movement in the Bahamas.
Amazing.
Yeah, we screen it pretty regularly, but it's a great reminder of this thing that we don't even think about, right? Like we show up and vote, but we don't necessarily think about the fact that women couldn't vote
Right. And that it's a
not
journey.
that long ago.
Yeah. And that there are problematic things with the women's suffrage movement here and in the Bahamas. Like, and there's some good that came of it. You know, I think it's, yeah, it's all of it all together.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason for the title of the film, Tiny Movements. It's worth moving forward, even if it's tiny. And I fought to keep in when Jen says at the end, just keep going, because it's very easy to get talked out of that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I see Marion is sharing some thanks in the chat and asking about us sharing the documentary with Bahamas Crisis Center and probably
Mhm.
some other groups, so we can talk about that
Yeah, that'd be great.
after this for sure.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything that they want to share? One thing, Jen, that I would love to hear from you about is that community that you brought with you and how you built that. And I know it wasn't like people who you just met and brought together, but the building of sharing this story. And I know that it's different sharing it with your brother than with your sister, than with your close friend, than with somebody that you know from work. Like how I think there are so many people who are grieving and trying to heal quietly and privately because it feels so hard to say these things out loud. And it's complicated when there is a long-term relationship or a marriage or children are involved. Um, it do you have a step-by-step guide?
Oh gosh,
You
no,
know?
I just let me get it for you. I think like I said, I brought people from my whole life. And I have known in my life that I have a gift, an ability for connectivity. My children sometimes go, "Mom, you are so creepy. You know everybody." And I go, "Okay." And there's some truth to that. I run into people I quote unquote shouldn't run into in places I shouldn't run into them. I mean, it's interesting. There's some sort of magnetic ability, electromagnetic, I don't know. I'm delighted by human beings. It's why I love teaching children. They're terrible, and I love them so much. I mean, they say the most awful things to you, like, Miss Jen, your breath smells really bad. I'm like, ah, I mean, that's rude. And you're right. Okay, I appreciate your honesty. Um, you know, I really I have realized, I guess, in my life and that I just love human beings. And so um that has, I guess, spurred my ability. And I don't know, maybe I have an innate gift for connectivity. I think that's part of the gift I have. I think there is some gift in it if you're looking for how did I do this. And I've cultivated it. I think I do. I don't want to just say it just landed in my lap. Like I have worked to create community too. I try to do my part. I don't always do it really well or gracefully or in equal measure, but are we looking for equal measure, or are we looking for doing our part with what we have when we can? I think that is something I ask when I feel guilty sometimes for having received so much support and so much care. I meet myself in saying, okay, but when have you given everything you possibly could with joy? And, you know, it's okay if you are not doing it in equal measure. This is not a tit for tat thing. That's not what community is. My gifts, my resources are different than yours, and they might fluctuate in a different manner. They do, not might, they do fluctuate in a different manner than anyone else. And so I think my hope is to, I don't know if it's my hope. I think that demonetizing the idea of community, I think that in some ways we have monetized and commodified, yes, that's the word I'm looking for, commodified community. And it has become this, well, you have to do this for me and I'll do that for you. And if you give me a present and it has a bow, I'll give you a present with a bow. I don't want that. And I don't think we have to have that. I think that we can take a deep breath and be really vulnerable and say we need help, or say I can help, which is also vulnerable to say I can help you, I want to help, or can I help? Not like forcing help on someone, but there is vulnerability in offering your practice, your expertise, however you want to speak that. Like, it's super vulnerable to offer that because it puts you in a position of authority, perhaps. And so sometimes I think people don't offer help because it creates imbalances, So again, it goes both ways. I think the vulnerability can go both ways. And gosh, I don't know. I just really hope that we dig as deep as we can into vulnerability and community. And I think that might be my answer for how to live my life. I'm not rich. I don't have any money, but I'm really pretty happy with the life I'm living. And I feel incredibly wealthy with the communities around me. I wouldn't trade them for anything. Yeah.
Feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we spent a lot of time talking about this journey and the film and why and how. And before we go, I think it would just be nice to hear something about Jenn, the person, beyond these experiences. So I don't know, tell us some of the things that you really like, that you really enjoy, and maybe introduce us to something new that we should look into.
Okay, well, I did just see Wicked for Good, and I love it. The Wizard of Oz plays big into my mythology. When I was 7, I am the oldest of 6 children. My mother knew she wanted to have a lot of children, so she dressed us all in overalls, and I had a bowl cut. And as you see by my dances and my clothing, I'm pretty girly. Like, I like the frilly, fluffy, sparkly, shiny things, if we call that girly. I just like those things, okay? I did not have access to those things. So my aunt, who had 3 boys and really wanted to like princess someone up, sent me some shiny red shoes, a la The Wizard of Oz. And I put them on just after having grown my new front tooth. And I went, because I was also a tomboy, but I wanted to be real fluffy while I did it. And I went running down the hill and I face planted and I broke out my new tooth. And it has affected my whole life. I have a bridge. I have like dental stuff like nobody's business. And I still love The Wizard of Oz. And I have worn, here's the thing, the shoes aren't really red, they're silver. If you've read the books, you know that they're silver. And I have worn silver shiny shoes for over 20 years because of my love of The Wizard of Oz. And I'm currently on book 2 of the very long series. It's a very long series of books, reading to my long distance boyfriend, reading The Wizard of Oz to each other. And it's really cute.
That's so cute.
Cute.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jen and Laura, for being here with us, not just sharing the film, but sticking around and having such great conversation.
Mhm. Thank you
And
for having us.
yeah,
Yeah.
Laura, is there anything that we should know about that's coming up? Anything we should be boosting the signal on?
Next up, we will be having a screening in Philadelphia with Women Against Abuse. But I guess you can check the website for updates. It's tinymovementsfilm.com or on Instagram at tinymovementsfilm. And we'll keep you posted as
Yeah, we
things
have a website
arise.
because we're
We have a
famous.
website now, just as of today. Actually, so perfect
Y'all are so
timing.
legit.
As of today, yes.
We're legit today. Today.
100%. Just for today, we are legit. But thank you so much for having us. This was really an amazing conversation.
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
so much. And thank you to everyone who came. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you very much.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing your story and your art and your work and showing us what it looks like to do the thing the way you need to do it and calling in your people. I think that's a big lesson from this is calling in your people, getting your people to show up for you and with you.
They'll show up. Call in your people.
Mhm. Give them a chance to show up.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. The Global 16 Days continues for another 6 days. We have more events, some in-person on Saturday and Sunday at Poinciana Paper Press for folks in New Providence, and some virtuals. Saturday, we have a conversation about reclaiming the workplace, and then one on reclaiming faith, which I hope everyone is going to show up for because we really need to talk about Christian fundamentalism. And next week, we will have Dr. Indira Martin with us to talk about reclaiming health and closing out with Gaynell Curry, having a conversation about human rights and how we can reclaim them as Bahamians in a country where people are and used to advance rights right here and to stand in solidarity on issues in other countries like ending apartheid in South Africa. Check out the full lineup of events on our Luma page, lu.ma/16days25, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Equality242, and follow Tiny Movements Film on Instagram, and check out the brand new shiny website too. And we will see you again sometime soon.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.